Hello, everybody. How are you all doing? So today is Wednesday. I usually go out on a hike, but it's been raining. Also, my teacher's here visiting, so we're hanging out with him. So I decided to stay indoors and do another listening to video. This video was suggested by David. It's called How to Keep Your Heart Open in Hell. So this teaching is by Ram Dass. Now this video is interesting because the YouTube channel is called After School, and it looks like they do a lot of art and animation. They have these with some kind of speaker, many different kinds of speakers from what I could tell. So this one happens to be with Ram Dass. I'll put a link down below to this After School YouTube channel. I think we'll just begin.
One of the things that has changed in me is that I have begun to fall in love with the universe. And it's hard to talk about that.
Very interesting way to start this. Falling in love with the universe. Sometimes we fall in love with something we like, and we kind of avoid or pretend or ignore the things that we're not comfortable with or the things we don't like. But I see him drawing a tank here and stuff. So yeah, it starts off very interesting.
Let me read to you two poems. This first one is by a Buddhist monk named Thich Nhat Hanh. Very beautiful monk. I won't read the whole thing. I am a frog swimming happily in the clear water of a pond. I am also the grass snake who, approaching in silence, feeds itself on the frog. I am the child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo sticks. I am also the merchant of arms, selling deadly weapons to Uganda. I am the 12-year-old girl, refugee on a small boat, who throws herself into the ocean after being raped by a sea pirate. I am also the pirate, my heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. My joy is like spring, so warm it makes flowers bloom in all walks of life. My pain is like a river of tears, so full it fills up all the four oceans. Please call me by my correct names so that I can hear at the same time all my cries and my laughs, so that I could see that my...
This is a very interesting teaching so far. I guess this is a poem by Thich Nhat Hanh. I haven't heard this one before. Basically, it kind of has the essence of Buddhism and Zen, talking about how we are not separate from anything in this universe. It's only our thinking that divides everything, splits everything apart into opposites. So I'm very curious here. It says, please call me by my correct name so I can hear at the same time all my cries, all my laughs. I want to continue with this because the first thing that I thought of was Zen koan. What was your original name before your parents were born, right? So there's a very clear response to this too about our name, right? Usually we are attached to name and form, or attached to name. Sometimes we think the name is something we are, but our true name goes beyond that and connects to everything in this universe.
My joy and pain are but one. Please call me by my correct names so that I could become awake, so the door of my heart be left open, the door of compassion. All my names. The quality of love has no boundaries. There's no other in love.
Love has no boundaries. Again, what I mentioned earlier, usually we divide everything up and we create walls and barriers and boundaries when actually that doesn't exist. Creating all of these things is what causes suffering in our lives.
There is us at one level, and at the deeper level, there is only I. We are merged in love. Call me by my true names. The other quote is still in dualism, but it's on the edge. It's a quote from the poet Kabir.
So before we continue, what is your true name? Not the one that you were given to at birth, but your true name. Let me know down in the comments.
Where you see there is one. There are no boundaries. There are no separatenesses. And then as that one starts to come into form as separate, you look at the separate forms it has taken with a quality of awe and wonder when you're looking from there. When you're looking from the point between what's called the form and the formless, right at the edge, and you look down at form or out at form or up at form, there's no direction. You look at form, you see the absolute awful beauty of form. And you see, as Plato talks about it, the law that you appreciate as what you call God oftentimes is just all form in law. It's all lawfully related. It's called the Tao in Chinese, the way of things. It's the way in which all forms are related to all other forms. And you look and you see it's perfect.
Interesting term, perfect. Sometimes I do hear this in Buddhism, Buddhist teaching about perfecting or perceiving something that's perfect. Another way of saying that is actually complete. Just imagine if you're looking at a sunset and there's that one moment where you don't see the sunset, you are the sunset, right? Your mind and the sunset are not separate. We all have that experience. So we can call that the law, we can call it the Dharma, becoming one with God, Buddha nature, true self. There's many different names for this point. This is the realm of perceiving something that's perfect or complete, because we are that thing at that moment. There's nothing missing. There's nothing that's empty. There's nothing that's full. It's already complete and clear in this moment.
My guru in India used to say to me, Ramdas, don't you see it's all perfect? I'd say, perfect? Perfect? What about Bangladesh? What about Africa? What about tyranny? What about violence? What about greed? He said, don't you see it's all perfect? Can't you step back for a moment from your humanity to see the way of things? Can't you see the way it's all lawfully unfolding? The question is, have you the courage to see what you're seeing?
Now that line I can resonate with. Do you have the courage to see what you're seeing? As I mentioned earlier, usually we're trying to avoid or push away things that are uncomfortable. That's why it's very difficult to kind of see the truth of this world sometimes. It's very hard to look at. Now, step back from your humanity is a very interesting term, because what does it actually mean to be human? There's a lot of ideas about that and all different kind of spiritual traditions. But I think, again, if we find this place that's already perfect, that means already complete, then the essence of this humanity already appears and our job becomes very clear.
Or does it seem to take away your humanity?
All right, so I didn't read the rest of that. Do you have the courage to see what you're seeing, or does that take away your humanity? How can it? Let's see.
Because when you look and you say it's all perfect, the problem is it's so impersonal. Somebody falls down in front of you and you say, karma. See, there's no warmth to it. But if you come down into your human heart, the pain is unbearable, because there is so much suffering everywhere. And you look, and there's rape, and there's child molestation, and there's ecological insensitivity, and there's tyranny, and there's terrorism, and there's, which one is it first? Starvation, the homeless, who is it? Where does your heart go first? And what most people do is they close their heart down and they armor it to protect it from the immense amount of suffering. They armor it with their mind, with thoughts, with a web or a net or a veil of thought that armors the heart so that they don't get hurt and overwhelmed by the immensity of the suffering.
Okay, that's interesting too. Again, about being swallowed by the suffering of this world. Usually this is connected with this ego, this strong sense of self, this strong sense of I. We try to protect this I, this self, from all suffering, right? So we can live a happy life or a complete life or a content life. But that just ends up causing more separation with this world, which causes more suffering for ourselves. Sometimes in the school I teach in, we have this term about big suffering. Once a monk went to Zen Master Sungsong and said, I have to stop being a monk because my life is a living hell. And Zen Master Sungsong instantly replied, if your direction is clear, then even living in hell is no hindrance. Right? So this is where the humanity starts to manifest from. So the truth of the world or the truth of suffering is just truth. How do we relate to it? So if we can be intimate with the suffering of this world, then kind of like this little picture here of this, I guess it's a father, can't tell, they look alien to me. But when the child is suffering, all you want to do is act. You don't even think about it so much. And it's the same way that it's possible to have this relationship with the rest of the world. Because again, usually it's just me or just my family or my family and friends, and the rest of the world, please stay away. But big suffering means that when we see the suffering of the world, we digest it. Our relationship becomes clear with it, and we want to do something to help.
My heart goes out to you is the expression. The heart will give. The heart doesn't know boundaries. The mind knows the boundaries. The heart says, here, take my...
Yeah, actually, our true mind doesn't have any boundaries. I know sometimes when we think of mind, we think that it's here. One time, Zen Master Sungsong asked a student, where is your mind? He pointed right here. I said, oh, your mind is very small. You must let your mind become large. Your mind is this universe, or we can say mind is Buddha. Mind is this world. This world is your mind.
And so the interesting question is, how do you keep your heart open in hell? And what does it mean to be in love with the world? And what does it mean in action? The answer lies again in the statement, at least the answer that I have found thus far, that there's nowhere to stand. That if you stand only in your humanity, it's unbearable. If you stand in the area of perfection, it's impersonal. If you get them both going at once, it is the root of what I understand true compassion to be about. It is something where, unlike Job, which questions God at some point, you do what you do because your human heart hurts and you want to do what you can to relieve the suffering of the people you love.
I once heard at a ceremony one time at the Providence Zen Center, we talk about the Buddha's enlightenment, right? When he perceived the star, where his mind and the star became one, we sometimes say that that's when he realized his enlightenment. And this teacher was saying that if the Buddha was alive today, his enlightenment experience would be a tear falling down his face. Because when your mind connects with the suffering of the world, you feel it. But it doesn't consume you. It doesn't swallow you.
And that seems so unfair, and suffering seems so cruel. And for you to hear the term, suffering is grace, not that you would ask for it, but that when it comes your way, you work with it. You work with it as part of your spiritual journey of awakening. Because the only reason anybody suffers is because of the clinging of their mind.
There's the truth of what's appearing, and then there's how we relate to it. That's what causes suffering. Sometimes people think no suffering doesn't mean we don't have pain, we don't have anger or sadness, things like this, or maybe you have chronic pain, right? It's not eliminating any of those things. We can't escape it as a human being. But how we relate to it, that's something we can be clear about.
When Ramana Maharshi, the great saint in India, was dying, and his devotees were crying, Bhagwan, Bhagwan, don't leave us, don't leave us. He said, don't be silly, where could I go? I'm just dropping my body, it's no big deal. When you have that level of awareness, then the whole meaning of suffering changes. And all suffering is showing you is where your mind is still clinging. To pull your awareness back from the time-binding nature of mind allows you to be fully here. To be fully here, am I happy? Yes, I'm happy. I'm happy because it's spring. I'm happy because people are having babies that are bringing joy into their lives. I'm happy because flowers are blooming. I'm happy for a myriad reasons.
The term that we all have ideas about, happiness. What is happiness? Sometimes I'll talk about true happiness. True happiness may be a state of feeling joy. Could also be a state of feeling sadness or anger, perceiving the suffering of the world, right? The happiness is not, first of all, it's not some certain state, a specific state, and it's not something we can get outside of ourselves, which most people are doing. Only if I had more money, then I would be happy. If I get into a relationship, then I would be happy. You know, this kind of thinking. True happiness is not dependent on anything outside of ourselves. It's completely being human.
Am I sad? Yes, I am sad. Because every 45 seconds, a child is dying needlessly from hunger. I'm sad because there is so much inhumanity among humans to each other and to other species. I am sad because there's so much fear. In this moment, I am both happy and sad. As long as you try to stay in the world of polarities, happy, sad, dark, light, positive, negative, good, evil, you cannot experience the richness of the moment.
All right. You cannot experience the richness of this moment if we're creating opposites. That's something I probably talk about almost in all my videos and probably every live stream. And that's why we do some kind of practice, whether that's Zen practice, any kind of Buddhist practice, meditation practice, maybe you're a Christian. Doesn't matter what religion you're practicing too. It's experiencing our true nature, and that true nature doesn't have the opposites world.
The richness of the moment is the one that lies just behind the two.
Okay, looks like that's the end of the video. Yeah, I would say very interesting video. It's a topic I talk about quite a lot, especially when people are asking me about motivation practice. Sometimes we lose that motivation. How do I motivate myself to practice meditation? And this would probably, for me at least, is the biggest one. Coming back to this teaching of big suffering. Looking at the suffering of this world motivates us. It gives us the fire to investigate our lives very closely, whether that's on the sitting meditation cushion, whether that's being with your family or friends or being at work, looking at this life very closely, becoming intimate with the moment, and responding with love and compassion. Those are my thoughts for this video. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this teaching from Ram Dass. And how do you keep your heart open in hell? I'd be interested to hear that. All right. Thank you, everybody. And hopefully I will see you very soon.